is what does it take for operators to provide service to their customers and anticipate failures such as this?
We've seen satellites on the fritz rescued by the space shuttle, but of course the shuttle doesn't go as high as this thing is. Are there ever plans in the future to be able to do that kind of a mission?
It would be wonderful if we could. Unfortunately, as you point out, the shuttle cannot reach satellites at this altitude. I'm not sure there are any vehicles capable of reaching that altitude and retrieving the spacecraft. I must say, I, for one, would certainly like to study this spacecraft.
Well, so we know where it is, but it is in a real sense then lost in space.
It is there, but for the purpose of communication services and providing service to our customers, we're assuming that it is lost.
And how far are we along in transitioning the various services to other satellites? How much is restored?
We have identified backup capacity for virtually all of our customers on Galaxy 4. As I said earlier, we are in the process of moving one satellite that will service about half the customers. It's beginning its journey from its present location to the location previously occupied by Galaxy 4. At the same time, we have provided capacity for the balance of the customers on a nearby adjacent satellite, and those customers are in the process of moving their networks, which involve physically moving the Earth station antennas. Some restoration has already occurred, and more will continue as these networks are relocated.
Okay, Robert, the very best of luck, and thanks for taking time out to join us.
Thank you very much.
Robert Bednark, the Chief Technology Officer of PanAmSat. With consolidation well underway in the telecom industry, small, long-distance carriers are prime candidates for takeovers. Telegroup is one such candidate. We'll find out more from the company's CEO, Cliff Rees.
On tonight's broadcast, we will report to you about the great satellite failure and the great pager blackout. We'll also tell you how Indonesia's leader is struggling to stay in power and may very well be a goner, what that can mean, the Asian political crisis to our own economy, plus a very special eye on America.
But the chances of
store services disrupted by the failure of the Galaxy 4 satellite. It lost track of Earth last night, knocking out service to as much as 90% of the 45 million pagers in the United States. The Personal Communications Industry Association says such a large-scale outage is unprecedented. Fewer than 1% of satellites in orbit have been lost in the last 5 years. Besides pagers, the failure has affected television feeds and credit card and ATM transactions. Pager users immediately saw results of the outage.
Know if anyone's trying to get a hold of you?
I tried to get a hold of me and it wouldn't work.
Oh, really?
Yes. I called from my phone right next to my pager and I watched it and it didn't work.
You know, the call cannot be completed, basically that it's not in the range. So, yeah, so it's pretty frustrating. I mean, I just thought to myself, I wrote a note, you know, to call about the new cell phone, actually.
PanAmSat, the owner of the satellite, says it'll take about a week to restore service to everybody. The House voted in spacecraft 22,000 miles above Earth. The Galaxy 4 satellite lost track of Earth last night after the onboard computer control system failed. The failure has knocked out service to as many as 90% of the nation's estimated 45 million pagers. Authorities with PanAmSat, which owns the satellite, say the outage is unprecedented.
The first thing we're going to do, as we always do, is we take care of our customers, and we've transferred almost all the traffic that was on Galaxy 4 to other satellites that belong to PanAmSat and Galaxy. In order to bring back their services, they have to reorient their ground antennas to look at the new satellite.
Elizabeth Cohen has more about how doctors and hospitals are coping with the loss of pagers.
When Dr. Fred Schwartz came to work Tuesday morning, he had no idea his beeper wasn't working.
I read about it in the paper, and I didn't think it was going to really affect me, so I came in the doctor's dressing room and heard my name, overhead page, to come to the front desk, and went up there, and they said, well, we have a C-section to do right now, and that's the only way I found out about it.
Dr. Schwartz is an anesthesiologist in the labor and delivery department at Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta.
You can't use the regular code pager.
At the telecommunications center, they made overhead pages and gave the few beepers that did work to the doctors and nurses who needed them most.
Hello? Yes. No, it's Fred.
Some hospitals use portable phones, others use two-way radios.
Well, this is the way we used to do things 15 years ago before many of us had beepers, so it's getting back to some of the basics.
Of course, doctors aren't the only people who carry pagers. Lots of people do. For example, a man might carry a beeper if his wife is about to have a baby. Al and Maureen Moosberger were counting on his pager, and it failed at a crucial time.
Well, I was in labor about 4 hours without you, so...
Fortunately, Al got the message from his answering machine and arrived in time to see his baby girl, Nicole, born.
This is your birthday, May 20th. Yeah, Daddy almost didn't make it.
They say they'll always remember May 20th as the day a beautiful Nicole was born and the day the beeper died. Elizabeth Cohen, CNN, Atlanta.
Across America, lots of people are dreaming of big bucks tonight.
They're looking at all the data trying to figure that out. But there were hints from the company last week that there was trouble with Galaxy 4, and it's probably a hardware failure of some sort. Either way, if this satellite is in fact a total write-off, and that's what officials are privately saying right now, the underwriting community is looking at about a $180 million payout.
Well, when something like this happens, how do you fix a broken satellite up there?
Well, you know, these satellites orbit at 22,300 miles above the equator, and that's far beyond the reach of any spacewalking repairman to go up and do a service call. What they do is they design these satellites with as many backup systems and as much redundancy on board as possible so that they can withstand the failure of a major component and still perform their function. But when the secondary systems also fail, which appears to be the case with Galaxy 4, then there's not a lot they can do but eat the loss, move their customers to other satellites, and think about relaunching a spare satellite.
Bill Harvard, thanks. And later in this broadcast, Eye on America investigates a high-tech threat to U.S. national security you didn't hear about, but the president did. They kept it secret.
Say it's dead, but that's exactly what it looks like. A malfunction of the onboard control panel of Galaxy 4 has rendered it useless, at least for now.
It's probably the most serious failure of a domestic communications satellite in recent memory.
Accidents like this raise worrisome questions. For people waiting for an organ transplant, for instance, beepers are a matter of life and death. And at least for now, consumers will have to use cash instead of credit cards at the gas pump because credit card authorization data was transmitted by Galaxy 4. So far, though, there have been no disasters reported as a result of the outage.
For the next 24 hours or so, Pan Am will make a last-ditch attempt to try to regain control of Galaxy 4. In the meantime, customers are being rerouted to different satellite locations, and it could be days before we return to normal. Liz Mullen, CBS News, New York.
The original jet-powered Air Force One is also officially out of service this morning. The Boeing 707 took off from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio yesterday. It made 4 low passes over the grounds and then landed in the shadow of the museum, which will become its retirement home. Delivered to Andrews Air Force Base in 1962, the plane carried President Kennedy's body from Dallas and President Nixon to China. The public will be able to see it next month, and yes, visitors will be allowed to walk through it.